You guys asked for it. I am here to obey your command. And we are back with some more book recommendations based off of Baldur's Gate 3 characters. This is going to be more romance companions, including some darker bad boys and women romance options. So let's go ahead and get started. Hello everyone, my name is Wendy Ivy Martinez and I am a geek. Hi. If you are here, then you're probably a geek too. You probably really enjoy books and you probably really enjoy Baldur's Gate. If you guys didn't watch my last video, I did the main 6 companions, which is like Karlach, Astarion, Lae'zel, Gale, Will, and Shadowheart. Today we're doing 5 more romance options. We are doing the sexy druid bear man. We're doing Halsin, we're doing Mizora, we're doing Minthara, we're doing the Emperor Mind Flayer, and then we're doing Haarlep, aka Raphael. Let's go ahead and just get started with our druid bear man Halsin. The main 2 that I want to recommend for Halsin, number 1 being Broken Bonds by J. Bree. I really wanted to give Halsin a book recommendation because he's known as like the polyamorous guy. Like he believes in you having plenty of lovers and him having plenty of lovers. So of course I wanted to choose a why choose paranormal romance for this. In this book we follow our main character as she is escaping from her past and she ends up getting forced back where she comes face to face with these men, North, Nox, Griffin, Atlas, and Gabe, and she's confronted by them and there's some sort of bond that they all have. And it's a why choose romance, so I felt like this was very fitting for Halsin. The next one for Halsin is Guild by Raven Kennedy. Why? Because Halsin has a little bit of a dark history. I mean, all of our companions and our romance options pretty much do. Halsin ended up being forced to being someone's plaything for like 3 years, and he was kind of held captive against his will, and I believe he was like tied to her bed for all these years and forced to do her bidding, you know, in the bedroom. And this one in Guild, we follow our main character who is pretty much the king's saddle. Like it's his favorite thing to ride and nobody else can touch her but him, much like Halsin. And basically when he's not getting his needs met, he basically keeps her locked up in this like golden cage and nobody else can touch her or have any sort of interaction with her. So she's pretty alone other than when she's around guards or with the king. So that is why I'm recommending this one for Halsin as well, based off of his backstory. So next, let's move on to Mizora. So Mizora is bad, right? So Mizora is bad. She controls Will. Basically, she made this treaty with him and sort of like forced him into doing her bidding. And she's also known to be a very like notoriously good lover, I guess, if you will. Even though everybody gets mad if you make that decision. Everybody gets mad if you make that decision. But if you do choose to make that decision, one book that I highly recommend for you is Satan's Affair by H.D. Carlton. I read this book last year and it was in one of my top 10 books of 2023 because I was obsessed. I had never read like a why choose romance like that, and I was obsessed with it. And in this one, we basically follow our main character named Sybil, who, much like Mizora, she has these henchmen to do her bidding. She grew up in this really like traumatic upbringing. She grew up in a cult, and she basically, as she gets older, she feels like she can scent bad people, and she has her henchmen track these people down and unalive them, and that basically like gets her off. So in the end, Sybil has these men do her bidding, much like Mizora has Will doing all these things that she wants and unaliving these people that she wants. So that is why I wanted to recommend this one. It is a why choose romance. It is like a reverse harem. It is so good. This is a dark romance, okay? Like but if you played Baldur's Gate, I'm pretty sure you can handle it because that can get pretty dark as well. This was just really good and I highly recommend. The next one that I really want to recommend is one that kind of reminds me a little bit of Will and Mizora's sort of relationship that they have going on without the romance, of course, and that is Her Soul to Take by Harley LaRose. Anyways, in this story, we basically follow two characters. We have Leon, who is basically sent to kill this woman named Ray, but for some reason he's captivated by her, and so instead of killing her off, he doesn't. And same thing with Ray. Ray knows that there's a demon that's been following her, much like Will has Mizora following him. And Leon is very bad. He's known to do a lot of horrible things, much like Mizora, but the only difference is that in this one, it is a dark romance, so obviously things happen. I know that this one has a lot of trigger warnings, so please check trigger warnings for this one because it is a very dark romance, but I really wanted to recommend it just because of this sort of situation that we kind of have going on between Leon and Ray. It sort of reminded me of the situationship that we have with Mizora and Will. Mizora being like the bad demon, and then Will being kind of like Ray, who's just trying to get by, but he's like kind of tied to Mizora now. Same thing with these two characters. So if you romanced Minthara, I have two book recommendations for you. The first one is going to be The Salt Grows Heavy by Cassandra Kah. Minthara's story, Minthara's background is also very dark. We have somebody who tried to unalive her when she was small, but her mother protected her, and then her mother tried to unalive her when she was a little bit older. And then eventually Minthara grows up and she becomes very fascinated with this cult of absolutes, and then that's when she gets the mind flayer parasite in her, and she becomes a true soul, and she becomes very obsessed with this sort of like cult. And that's why I wanted to recommend The Salt Grows Heavy. And the reason why is this one we follow a multitude of characters. I'm going to read what it says right here. It says, "You may think you know how the fairy tale goes. A mermaid comes to shore and weds the prince. But what the fables forgot most is that mermaids have teeth. And now the mermaid's daughters have devoured the kingdom and burned it to ashes." On the run, the mermaid is joined by a very mysterious plague doctor with a darkness of their own. Deep in the eerie snow-crusted forest, the pair kind of stumble upon a village that is full of ageless children who thirst for blood, and the three saints, kind of like the true souls, that control them. The mermaid and the plague doctor have to embrace the cruelest parts of their nature in order to survive. So because of this backstory, it just really reminded me of this tale, this description, and I wanted to strictly read what it said on Goodreads just because I felt like it gave a better description than I could. So there's that one. And the next book recommendation that I have for you is called Foucault's Pendulum by Umberto Eco, and then it's translated by a man named William Weaver. And this one is about three editors who decide to have a little bit of fun. They're really inspired by this sort of extraordinary fable that they heard years ago about this crazy colonel who claimed to know of a mystic source of power greater than atomic energy or the power of atoms, much like the true souls and, you know, the absolutes, really proving that the true source of power is becoming a true soul, and these like mind flayer parasites. So much like that, it really reminded me of that, and how Minthara sort of becomes involved with that and becomes obsessed with that idea. So because of that, that's why I really wanted to recommend this one for Minthara as well. So those are two book recommendations based off of If You Romanced Minthara, and they're pretty much based off of her backstory, not too much romances with this one. But let's move on to the next one. Now, if you're one of those people that I'm not going to question and I'm not going to judge, you romance the Emperor Mind Flayer, I'm going to suggest monster romances that feels like it might be your thing, especially when it involves tentacles. So the first book recommendation that I have for you is Ensnared by Tiffany Roberts. And in this one, we follow this spider creature thing. It sort of reminds me of the thing from Alien versus Predator. I don't know why. But in this one we follow that main monster thing, and he is basically supposed to marry the queen spider monster, but he doesn't want to. He wants to escape that fate. He doesn't want to have a mate, so he sort of flees off into the jungle, where he comes face to face with this pale woman named Ivy, and she looks nothing like him. In fact, she's not even his kind. She's a human. And he becomes absolutely obsessed with her, completely infatuated with her, and he is not going to let her go. So whether Ivy likes it or not, their destinies are sort of entangled now, as she is dragged into this mess with this monster that she was not expecting. So this book has like a 4-star on Goodreads with over 12,000 reviews. That's how you know that even if it's a monster romance and this thing is not human, it doesn't even look human, it's good. So that is one monster romance. Next, if you are missing the tentacles and if you want the tentacles, then I'm going to recommend The Kraken Sacrifice by Katie Robert, if you want those tentacles. Technically, this is book 2 in the Deal with the Demon series by Katie Robert. However, they are pretty much standalones as we follow different main characters, so you don't necessarily need to read the first book, which is The Dragon's Bride, in order to read the second one. And the second one, we are following Catalina as she tries to escape this pact that she made with a demon. And once she escapes this pact with a demon, she thinks that she's free until she's auctioned off to a kraken instead. But this kraken isn't what she expects. He is actually very sweet. And even though he's very isolated, he is very kind to her, and things start to get a little bit interesting and heated, and then a romance ensues and a lot of smut ensues. But Catalina, as she gets closer and closer to him, she finds herself being very upset because she knows that in 7 years the demon is going to come back and claim Catalina. So what is she going to do when she is falling in love with this kraken? This book seems really interesting, to say the least. I'm probably gonna have to do a whole vlog where I literally read monster romances, because I've never read a monster romance before, and I am kind of vaguely curious. But if you did, or you are planning to romance the Mind Flayer, and that's your thing, go for it. Do you boo. Like, I'm not judging, but I recommend this one. Next, we have a man that if you romanced him or you gave him that option to use your body, I don't blame you, because I did the same thing. And that is Raphael, aka Haarlep. His inner demon, Raphael's inner demon that he needs your body for. Here are 2 book recommendations that I have for you if you find that demon on the hot side. Number 1 is Learn My Lesson by Katie Robert. Yes, we have another Katie Robert here. This is a Hercules Hades retelling. The reason is because Raphael is this like powerful demon, much like Hades in the underworld. However, this one takes a modern twist and it takes away the fantasy elements of this retelling, as this Hades owns this like pleasure underground thing that's like super popular and super poppin', and we're following his assistant Meg as he recruits Hercules, and it turns into a wide shoes romance that is very smutty. And if you want a spicy Hercules retelling that gives very much Haarlep / Raphael vibes, I highly recommend this one. Next, a book recommendation that I have for you is Pestilence by Laura Thalassa. Now, the reason why I recommend this one is because we still get that very like bad boy, sexy, hot demon energy, with the fact that the main love interest is Pestilence, who is one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And in this one, Pestilence has been sent down to cause, obviously, pestilence along the world and start the end of the world, and he basically comes for our main character Sarah's town, and he's really plans to burn it down. However, Sarah ends up shooting him, and nobody told Sarah that pestilence cannot be killed. The 4 horsemen cannot be killed. So she does indeed shoot him off his horse, but that only upsets him, and now he keeps her as prisoner. And then Sarah realizes that, he might not be the bad guy that I thought he was. And Pestilence is like, hey, Sarah might not be a bad girl. And obviously a romance ensues, and Sarah realizes that she can put a stop to the end of the world. However, if she does, that risks her losing the thing that she's starting to fall in love with. So if you want something that has total Raphael bad boy vibes, this one's the one for you. Anyways, you guys, that is it. That is the wrap up for the Baldur's Gate 3 romance options you have available to you. But I can do more if you want me to do more side characters. If you want me to do one for the big bads, I am more than willing to do so. But that's it for the romance character specifically. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. If you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell to be notified when I post. I post twice a week, 2 to 3 times a week, and then shorts throughout the week. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!